Bitcoin radio, the sound of the chain.
Hello, friends. I hope you are all doing well. Get ready, because we have some seriously fascinating insights into the world of crypto and blockchain.
Absolutely. The momentum is just incredible. It feels like crypto is finally breaking out of its niche and becoming a real force.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, every day there's another announcement about some big institution embracing crypto. We're not talking about little fintech companies anymore. This is like the big leagues.
Exactly. We have one bank CEO who's even hinted about integrating crypto into their systems. They have like hundreds of patents related to this stuff. And another bank CEO who's predicting that digital assets will completely revolutionize finance within the next 20 years. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement.
That's crazy. So if these institutions are getting involved, does that mean mainstream adoption is just around the corner?
It's a pretty strong indicator for sure. It adds a lot of legitimacy when you have these major players jumping in, and that's going to have implications for all of us, whether we're invested in crypto or not.
Very true. Okay, so banks are getting on board, but then there's all this talk about the U.S. creating a strategic crypto reserve. What's the deal with that?
That's where things get really interesting. The details are still kind of murky, but there's speculation that it could include Bitcoin and maybe even another cryptocurrency. There's a lot of debate about which one it might be, and the crypto community is buzzing.
Oh, so a little mystery, a little controversy keeps things spicy. But seriously, a U.S. crypto reserve, how would that even work?
You can think of it like a gold reserve, but for digital assets, it could be a way for the government to diversify its holdings and maybe hedge against inflation.
Interesting. So like a safety net. But wouldn't this also be like a major signal from the government that they're taking crypto seriously?
Absolutely. It would be a huge endorsement of crypto's legitimacy on a global scale. But it's also worth remembering that the U.S. government's relationship with crypto has been a little complicated, shall we say.
Uh-oh. What do you mean?
Well, there are these ongoing investigations into whether the administration is trying to exclude crypto businesses from using banking services. There are even accusations about documents being destroyed.
Whoa. Okay, that's a little shady. Is there any evidence to back up those accusations?
Well, that's what the investigation is trying to find out. There's a big hearing coming up with some major crypto companies that could shed some light on the situation. It could have a huge impact on regulations for the whole industry.
This is getting intense. So we have banks getting involved, a possible government crypto reserve, and some legal drama.
We can't forget about Ethereum. There are big changes happening there, too.
Oh, right, Ethereum.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget just how big that platform is. What's going on? Did they finally fix those crazy gas fees?
Well, not quite, but that's a hot topic. The founder of Ethereum has raised concerns about how all these layer 2 networks are impacting the price of Ether.
Okay, I'm trying to follow here. Scaling is supposed to be a good thing, but it could have some unintended consequences. Can you explain that a little more?
Think of Ethereum like a highway. As more cars use the highway, it gets congested and the tolls go up. Layer 2 networks are like building new express lanes to handle more traffic, which makes things more efficient. But some people are worried that if too many cars move to the express lanes, it could devalue the original highway.
Okay, that's a great analogy. So the challenge is scaling Ethereum without making the core platform less valuable. So what are some possible solutions?
The founder has a few ideas, like making these layer 2 networks burn some of their fees, essentially destroying them. This would help control the supply of Ether and maybe even boost its value. Another idea is requiring these networks to invest back into the Ethereum ecosystem.
Interesting. So it's all about finding that balance between innovation and stability, which I guess is the story of crypto in general right now.
Absolutely. It's a constant push and pull between pushing the boundaries and making sure the foundation is solid. And that sometimes means facing some uncomfortable realities.
And speaking of uncomfortable realities, did you hear about the Ledger co-founder who was kidnapped?
Yes. That was a scary reminder that even in the digital world, real-world risks still exist.
And the fact that they demanded a crypto ransom just shows how intertwined these two worlds are becoming.
Exactly. It underscores how important security is in this space. We can't just focus on the potential rewards. We have to be aware of the risks and protect ourselves.
Very true. So we've talked about institutions getting involved, the actions of big investors, the evolution of the technology, even the darker side of this world. But what about the average person? How is all this going to impact our lives?
That's the million-dollar question. We're still in the early stages of this revolution. It's hard to predict exactly what will happen, but we are seeing some fascinating clues.
Oh, come on. Give me some good news. I need to stay optimistic.
One big name is making headlines for his plan to modernize the U.S. government with blockchain technology. Imagine a more transparent, secure government where information is easily accessible and corruption is minimized. That's the idea, anyway.
Wow, that's ambitious. Is it even realistic?
Yeah. It's definitely a moonshot. There are a lot of challenges. But the fact that it's being discussed at all is a big deal. It shows that people are taking the potential of blockchain seriously.
So it's not just about disrupting finance. Blockchain could change how governments work. That's huge.
Absolutely. And it's not just governments either. Stablecoins are another trend that could have a big impact on the global financial system.
Stable coins. I've heard that term, but I'm not really sure I understand what they are or why they matter. Can you break it down for me?
Sure, stablecoins are basically digital currencies that are designed to maintain a stable value. They're usually pegged to something like the US dollar. And the interesting thing is that a lot of them are backed by US Treasury bonds. So there's speculation that they could actually make the US dollar even more dominant globally.
So instead of challenging the current system, they could actually reinforce it.
That's one possibility. But it's not without its critics. Some people argue that this could lead to more dollarization, especially in emerging economies, which could limit their financial independence. It's a complex issue with a lot of implications that we need to watch carefully.
It's amazing how something that seems so technical, like a digital currency, can have such a big impact on the balance of power in the world. It's like we're standing on the edge of this giant wave, and we don't know what's going to happen when it crashes.
That's a great way to put it. There's both excitement and fear. But even with all this uncertainty, there are signs that some people are thinking ahead and making smart moves.
Like what? Tell me something good.
One U.S. state is actually proposing a bill that would allow them to invest state funds in Bitcoin. It's a sign that more and more institutions are seeing Bitcoin as a way to protect themselves from inflation.
Wow, that's pretty revolutionary. It's like they're saying, we're not just going to watch this happen, we're going to be a part of it.
Exactly. It shows that even with all the volatility and uncertainty, there are people who believe in the long-term potential of these technologies.
That's reassuring. It sounds like even though the crypto world feels like a crazy roller coaster ride, there are still some signs of stability and strategic thinking.
Absolutely. It's all about finding the signal amidst the noise. And speaking of noise, there's been a lot of talk about one cryptocurrency in particular and the fact that a few big wallets control a lot of the tokens.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that. It sounded kind of scary.
It's understandable to be concerned, but a lot of experts don't see it as a major threat. Those tokens are mostly held by users, and the company behind the cryptocurrency doesn't have much control.
So maybe it's not as bad as it seems.
Exactly, but it does raise a bigger question about the sheer number of cryptocurrencies out there. With millions of altcoins competing for attention, the market is really crowded.
So is this the end of altcoin season? Are we going to see a bunch of these projects just disappear?
It's definitely possible that we'll see some consolidation. Only the strongest and most innovative projects are likely to survive in the long run.
Survival of the fittest. But in the digital world. Makes sense. But with all this talk about crypto, I've also been hearing a lot about artificial intelligence. Is there a connection there?
You can't ignore the rise of AI. It's everywhere. And yes, we are starting to see some interesting connections between AI and blockchain.
Really? Like what?
Well, one company has created this AI model that's making a lot of noise. It's designed to analyze and predict market trends with incredible accuracy.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
And that's just the beginning. There are all these other tech companies pouring money into AI research and development, looking for new applications in every industry imaginable.
So we have crypto evolving, AI exploding, and now they're starting to merge. This is getting wild.
We're definitely on the verge of something big. But to understand the full potential, we need to dive into the world of AI and explore what it all means.
Okay, let's do it. But first, I need a coffee refill.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about how crypto and AI could shape our future. I mean, we're talking about decentralized intelligent systems that could change everything, like finance, healthcare, even how governments work.
Whoa, okay. That's a lot to process. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now. It's exciting, but it's also kind of scary.
It definitely is. But let's break it down and revisit some of the key points we've talked about so far.
Please do. My brain needs a minute to catch up.
Okay, so first we talked about how institutions are really starting to embrace crypto, with banks integrating it, investment firms launching ETFs, even governments exploring digital assets. It's like the establishment is finally taking it seriously.
Yeah, they can't ignore it anymore. It's too big, too important.
Exactly. Second, we talked about the regulatory landscape, which is still a bit of a mess. There are investigations, hearings, shifting power dynamics. It's like the Wild West out there, but hopefully things will start to calm down as we get more clarity.
I hope so. What else?
Third, we talked about the incredible speed of innovation in the crypto space. New breakthroughs and developments are happening all the time. It's hard to keep up.
It really is. I feel like every time I think I understand, something new comes along and changes everything.
That's just the nature of the space. It's constantly evolving.
Hmm.
Fourth, we talked about market dynamics and how important it is to be aware of things like the concentration of power within certain cryptocurrencies and the potential for the altcoin market to become oversaturated. Not all crypto is created equal, and some projects are going to fail.
Right. So it's not enough to just jump on the bandwagon. You really have to do your research.
Absolutely. And finally, we talked about the broader societal implications of these technologies, how they might impact our economies, our governments, our lives. These are big questions that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, those are some heavy questions for sure. So with all of that in mind, what are some of the big things we should be focusing on as we move forward?
Well, one big question is how governments around the world are going to react to the rise of crypto and blockchain. Will they embrace it, try to control it, or find some kind of middle ground?
That's a good question. It seems like a lot of governments are still trying to figure out what to do.
Exactly. How they decide to regulate this space is going to have a huge impact. Another important question is how the convergence of AI and blockchain is going to play out. What new possibilities will emerge from combining those two powerful technologies?
We've already seen some pretty amazing things, but I bet this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I think you're right. And that leads us to another important question. How are individuals and communities going to navigate this rapidly changing landscape?
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the hype and forget about the human side of things.
Right. What tools and resources will people need to make informed decisions? How do we make sure that everyone benefits from these advancements, not just a select few?
So it's not just about understanding the technology.
Yeah.
It's also about understanding ourselves and how we fit into this new world.
Exactly. It's about finding the right balance between embracing innovation and protecting ourselves from the potential risks.
Okay, that makes sense. So with all these big questions swirling around, how do you feel about the future of crypto and blockchain? Are you optimistic? Cautiously optimistic?
Terrified.
I wouldn't say I'm terrified, but I do think it's important to be realistic. This is an amazing time to be alive. We're witnessing a technological revolution unfold right in front of us. It's full of potential, but it's also full of uncertainty.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads. The decisions we make now are going to determine the path we take. No pressure, right?
Haha, right. No pressure at all. But seriously, this is a conversation that needs to be happening. We need to be talking about the ethical implications, the potential risks, the long-term consequences. We need to ask tough questions and challenge assumptions.
It's not just about making money. It's about building the future we want to live in. That's a really important message.
I agree. And I hope our listeners are hearing that. This isn't just something you watch from the sidelines. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of these technologies. That's a good point. We can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. We need to be involved, asking questions, demanding accountability, making our voices heard. We need to be informed, engaged, and empowered.
That's right. This is just about technology. It's about people. It's about our values, our aspirations, the kind of world we want to create. It's about taking control of our digital destinies.
Wow, that's deep. I feel like I need to go for a long walk and think about all of this. But before we wrap up, I think our listeners would appreciate a recap of the key takeaways from our discussion.
You're right. Let's go over the most important points. Okay,
Yeah.
So first we talked about how institutions are really starting to get involved in crypto.
Yeah, it's like everyone's jumping on the bandwagon now. Banks, investment firms, you name it.
Right. And then second, there's the whole regulatory landscape, which is still a bit of a Wild West.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's going to happen with all these investigations and hearings going on.
Exactly. And then third, we talked about how quickly the technology is evolving.
It's amazing and kind of overwhelming at the same time.
I know what you mean. Then fourth, we talked about the importance of understanding market dynamics and not just blindly investing in whatever's popular.
Right. You got to do your research and make sure you're not just chasing hype.
Exactly. And then finally, we talked about the bigger picture, how these technologies could impact society as a whole.
Those are the really important questions in the end. How is this all going to change the world?
Yeah, and those are questions that we're all going to have to grapple with as we move forward.
Well, I think this has been a really insightful discussion. I've learned a lot.
Me too. It's always great to have
Yeah.
these kinds of conversations.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
Please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And bye, friends.
Let us know what you think. Share your comments, questions, and predictions in the comments section below.
And if you like this discussion, please leave a like, or even better, subscribe to this channel. Bye, friends.
Bitcoin Radio, the sound of the chain.